Chapter 14. Angelica finished her coffee with Javi. He seemed defeated with the case. If he had felt that he had his man, then she assumed he would seem much happier. But she had stuff to do herself. Angelica picked up the vases she hadn't bought the day before and walked back home. She had some research to do regarding her status in the country in the light of the UK leaving the EU. She thought about the things Laredo had told her when she was in his office. She didn't like the fact that drug dealers were walking the streets of Javea. Madrileños, people from Madrid, were blamed for many things in the town. It was used as a term of disdain by locals. Angelica didn't think that was fair. People came to Javea from all over Spain and all over the rest of the world too. Why lay the blame at the door of one group of people? And the putter clubs were another side of Spanish life she didn't like. As far as she had been told, they were adult clubs. But rumours were that the girls were there to do more than dance for the men. But she had enough on her plate to do something about that. Angelica would leave that battle for another day. With her new vases in pride of place and some information about residency, she went back to the school to pick Tommy up. He loved his school days, but was tired and ready for relaxation when he got back home. This didn't last long. A chill on the sofa and some food, and he was ready to run round again. Wednesday meant PE. He was more tired than usual. This was the day she took the car to pick him up. It was much easier than the potential tantrums on the walk home from school. "Mummy!" Tommy shouted. It was a chant that was repeated up and down the railings outside the school as mothers picked their children up from school. Angelica smiled at the feeling of love that abounded there. It gave her a warm feeling inside. The pair of them chatted about his school day while they walked back to the car. As she got him in, and then did the same herself, she spotted a flashy white Range Rover on the other side of the street. Tinted windows and lowered suspension meant that it could only belong to one person. A number plate, K4REN, confirmed this. In a split-second decision, Angelica decided to follow. "Mummy, where are we going? Home is that way," Tommy said from his position in the back seat. Angelica was pleased that he'd inherited her sense of direction rather than that of his father. She hoped that he would have as little of Patty in him as possible, especially in the way he treated others. "I've got a couple of errands to run, Tommy. It won't be long." "What are you doing?" he asked. "Just wait and see," she responded. She didn't know at that point what the errands might look like, but she was sure that following Karen was the right thing to do. Tracking the car through the streets and up into the hills, Angelica knew the neighbourhood well. Her friends lived up in the hills, in mansions built off the back of their fabulously successful business careers or their inheritance. Angelica didn't feel at home there when she first drove up to the hills, but the more she did it, the more comfortable she became. The car drove along the middle of the narrow streets like Karen owned them. If another car came round the same blind bend at the same speed with the same road positioning, then a head-on collision would be the only possible outcome. Angelica dropped back 50 feet or so, not wanting to be involved in any such accident. 3 minutes of wincing at every corner later, Angelica saw the gates of a property open and the Range Rover slip through. Karen didn't wait for the gate to fully open and nearly lost a wing mirror in the process of entering her own property. Angelica wondered how many times she'd have to spend a few €100 on a new wing mirror, but it was clear that Karen wasn't short of cash. The home was set back from the road, but it still imposed. It took up almost all of the view. Angelica slowed and watched Karen screech to a halt in front of her double front doors. Angelica looked in the rear-view mirror. There was nothing travelling up the road. Tommy was drifting into a sleep state due to the exertions of the day. When she looked back, the gates to the property were still open. Stood there with a hose in his hand was a pit bull of a man. His heavy-set upper body was littered with tattoos. His biceps were huge. Angelica had never seen such a pair of arms. The bald man stared right through her, but she was in no doubt what he was looking at. Angelica presumed this was Frank, and he was eyeballing her. Angelica drove away with a shudder going up and down her spine.